For 30 years, Roberta, Robbie Crawford, kept Whitney Houston's secrets, shared her dreams, and stood by her side through every triumph and challenge. As Whitney's closest friend since childhood, Robbie witnessed moments that the world never saw. The private Whitney who laughed until she cried, who called her friends at 3 in the morning just to talk, who remembered everyone's birthday and never missed a chance to celebrate the people she loved. Now, 12 years after Whitney's death, Robbie has decided to break her silence and share the untold stories of their extraordinary friendship. These are the memories that reveal the real Whitney Houston, not the tabloid headlines or the tragic ending, but the loyal friend, the generous spirit, and the woman who touched lives in ways the public never knew. People think they know Whitney's story, Robbie says, sitting in the same Newark cafe where she and Whitney used to meet for coffee every Sunday after church. But they only know the music and the headlines. They don't know about the Whitney who would drive 3 hours to attend a friend's child's graduation, or the Whitney who kept a secret phone book of every person who had ever helped her, or the Whitney who could make you laugh so hard you forgot all your troubles. Robbie and Whitney met in 1982 at a recording studio in Hoboken, New Jersey. Robbie was working as a backup singer for various R&B artists, and Whitney was a 19-year-old model trying to break into the music business. What started as a professional collaboration quickly blossomed into a sisterhood that would last until Whitney's final days. The first thing you noticed about Whitney wasn't her voice, it was her laugh, Robbie recalls. She had this infectious giggle that could fill up an entire room. We were working on some background vocals for a demo, and Whitney started telling stories about her modeling gigs. She was doing impressions of different photographers, and she had us all in stitches. I knew right then that this was someone special. But it was Whitney's kindness that really captured Robbie's heart. After their first recording session, Whitney noticed that Robbie was taking the bus home to Brooklyn. Without hesitation, Whitney offered to drive her, even though it meant an hour out of her way. During that car ride, they talked about everything: their families, their dreams, their fears about making it in the music industry. By the time they reached Robbie's apartment, they had become friends for life. Whitney was always thinking about other people, Robbie remembers. She would notice if someone seemed sad or stressed, and she would go out of her way to brighten their day. I've seen her give money to struggling musicians, babysit for friends who needed a night out, and call radio DJs just to thank them for playing her songs. As Whitney's career took off in the mid-1980s, Robbie was there for every milestone. She was in the recording studio when Whitney laid down the vocals for Greatest Love of All. She was backstage at Whitney's first major concert tour. She was at the Grammy Awards when Whitney won her first trophy, and she was the person Whitney called first when she received the news. The success never changed who Whitney was as a friend, Robbie insists. Yes, her life got more complicated, and we had to be more careful about privacy. But Whitney never acted like she was too important for our friendship. If anything, the bigger she got, the more she relied on the people who knew her before she was famous. Some of Robbie's favorite memories come from the quiet moments between Whitney's public appearances. There was the time in 1987 when Whitney rented out an entire movie theater so that she and her friends could watch Dirty Dancing without being bothered by fans or paparazzi. Whitney provided the popcorn, the candy, and a running commentary that had everyone laughing harder than the movie itself. There was the Christmas when Whitney decided to surprise her backup singers and band members by showing up at their homes with personally selected gifts. She had spent weeks shopping, choosing something meaningful for each person based on conversations they had shared throughout the year. Whitney remembered everything, Robbie says with a smile. She knew that my daughter loved horses, so she bought her riding lessons. She knew that our guitar player was trying to quit smoking, so she got him a beautiful watch engraved with an encouraging message. She knew that our drummer was saving money to propose to his girlfriend, so she secretly bought the engagement ring and told him it was an early Christmas bonus. But it was Whitney's loyalty that truly defined their friendship. When Robbie was going through a difficult divorce in 1989, Whitney didn't just offer emotional support, she provided practical help. She hired one of the best divorce attorneys in New York to represent Robbie, paid for temporary housing when Robbie had to move out of her marital home, and made sure Robbie's children had everything they needed during the transition. Whitney never made me feel like I was accepting charity, Robbie explains. She presented everything as a gift, between friends or as payment for work I was doing with her. She protected my dignity while making sure my family was taken care of. That's the kind of person she was, always thinking about how to help without making anyone feel uncomfortable. Whitney's generosity extended far beyond her immediate circle of friends. Robbie tells the story of a young singer named Maria who was working as a waitress while trying to break into the music industry. Whitney discovered Maria's talent during a late-night dinner at a New Jersey diner where Maria was working. Impressed by Maria's voice, Whitney quietly paid for vocal lessons, studio time, and demo recordings. When Maria finally got her record deal, she had no idea that Whitney Houston had been her anonymous benefactor. Whitney did things like that all the time, Robbie reveals. She would hear about someone with talent who just needed a break, and she would find a way to help without taking any credit. She funded music scholarships at several colleges, paid medical bills for musicians who couldn't afford health care, and supported dozens of young artists who never knew where their help was coming from. The friendship between Whitney and Robbie deepened during Whitney's marriage to Bobby Brown. While the media focused on the controversial aspects of their relationship, Robbie saw a different side of their love story. Bobby made Whitney laugh, Robbie remembers. Yes, their relationship had challenges, but there was real love there. I watched Whitney become a mother to Bobby Christina, and I saw how much joy that brought her. Whitney was an amazing mom, patient, playful, and completely devoted to her daughter. Robbie was also there during Whitney's struggles with addiction, offering support without judgment and helping Whitney find the strength to seek treatment multiple times. Whitney knew she had a problem, and she fought hard to overcome it, Robbie says firmly. People don't understand how difficult it is to recover from addiction when you're constantly in the public eye. Every mistake gets magnified. Every slip-up becomes front-page news. But Whitney never gave up trying to get better, and she never stopped being grateful for the people who stood by her. Some of Robbie's most treasured memories come from Whitney's later years, when she was working on her comeback and rediscovering her love for music. There was the afternoon in 2009 when Whitney called Robbie and asked her to meet at their old recording studio in Hoboken. When Robbie arrived, she found Whitney sitting at the piano, playing and singing gospel songs just like they used to do 30 years earlier. "We spent the whole day making music for no one but ourselves," Robbie recalls with tears in her eyes. No record executives, no producers, no pressure. Just two friends sharing the joy of singing together. Whitney's voice was still incredible, and more importantly, she was genuinely happy. It reminded me of why we became friends in the first place, because we both loved music, and we loved each other. Whitney's final gift to their friendship came in the form of a letter that she wrote to Robbie in January 2012, just weeks before her death. In the letter, Whitney expressed her gratitude for 30 years of unwavering friendship and shared her hopes for the future. She wrote that she was finally in a good place emotionally and spiritually, Robbie shares. She said she was excited about new music, new opportunities, and the chance to be a grandmother someday. She thanked me for never giving up on her, even when she had given up on herself. That letter is one of my most precious possessions. When Whitney died on February 11, 2012, Robbie lost more than a friend. She lost a sister. The Whitney that died in that hotel room wasn't the Whitney I knew for 30 years, Robbie says quietly. My Whitney was full of life, full of dreams. She was the woman who would call me at midnight just to tell me about a beautiful sunset she had seen, or who would show up at my house with ice cream when I was having a bad day. In the years since Whitney's death, Robbie has been approached countless times by journalists, biographers, and documentary filmmakers wanting her to share stories about Whitney's struggles and scandals. She has consistently declined, choosing instead to protect her friend's memory and honor their bond of trust. But now, Robbie feels it's time to share a different narrative, one that celebrates Whitney's generosity, loyalty, and love for the people in her life. Whitney deserves to be remembered for who she really was, Robbie says with conviction. She was one of the most genuine, caring, and generous people I have ever known. Yes, she faced challenges, but that doesn't define her legacy. Her legacy should be about the music she gave the world, the love she shared with her family and friends, and the countless lives she touched with her kindness. Robbie has established a scholarship fund in Whitney's name that provides financial assistance to young singers from disadvantaged backgrounds. It's her way of continuing Whitney's tradition of helping others while honoring the memory of their extraordinary friendship. Whitney always said that friendship was the greatest treasure in life, Robbie concludes. She believed that success meant nothing if you didn't have people to share it with. I was blessed to be one of those people for 30 years, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure the world remembers the beautiful heart that beat inside Whitney Houston. The untold stories of Whitney Houston and Roberta Crawford's friendship remind us that behind every great artist is a network of people who love them not for what they can do, but for who they are. Whitney Houston was more than a voice. She was a friend, a sister, and a woman who understood that the most important performances happen not on stage, but in the quiet moments when we show up for the people we love.